G'day everyone, I'm David and this is my Tabletop Standard, and today I'm going to be painting my white skies in a grimdark style. I'm going to be trying it with just acrylics, no oil paints, and I start off with a dark brown, a medium tan sort of colour, then a grey with a bit of a tan feel to it. I did realise during my painting process that after I put a wash on it, push the colours right back, probably could have got away with just leaving it at this step and not going on to do the deck tan on top, because the wash pretty much got rid of that. So after that process, I just went through with my brush and pretty much scratched on the paint, sort of just throwing it down in where I would like to have the main body of the white colour. I'm not being terribly careful with it. I don't want to get rid of all my recesses because I'm still wanting to keep a grungier, dark undercoat to it. But I also don't want the white to look too uniform and too clean. Well, I say white, it's the deck tan. After I've put that on with the brush, I go back over it again with a sponge. Sponge adds a bit of texture and interest to it. So instead of having the scratchy brush strokes that I did, it's going to have a bit of an overlay of a sort of speckly rough texture and appearance to the paint. I then go over it with silver grey, which will be my brightest highlight to my colours, and I just add it to all the outmost areas of the armour just to brighten up all the bits that are white, and then later on I will then darken up all my undersides and shadows. Using the brown that I started off with a relatively dry brush, I'm just rubbing it over all the areas that are recessed and all the bits that would be shadowed. And now I'm just adding a wash over it, using the sponge to drag off the majority but still leave some in the recesses. I use a sponge for this because the sponge is quite broad. It'll drag most of it away, but because it's so broad it leaves quite a bit in the recesses too. And this is it with the wash and the brown added to it. Now it's good to note that with this red, I'm wanting it very thin. I don't want to cover the color that I've already put on. I'm just wanting to tint it. So just with a very thin coat, almost glazing it on top, so that I keep all the roughness and tone of the layer underneath it there. Now, I couldn't use the white scars transfer because the transfers are quite bright, and because this is grimdark, I wanted it to look a lot duller than what the transfer was. So I just used the transfers as a reference and then painted the white scars logo on top. I did accidentally miss the first bit of the recording when I was doing the yellow box for the white scars logo, but thankfully I didn't miss too much of it. So once again, I'm wanting to just leave my paint quite wet. Well, I don't want it to run, but I also don't want it to be drying on my brush before I get to the model. So just keeping a good consistency of a relatively wet brush, not too wet that it's going to run everywhere, just enough that it will come smoothly off my brush without having to lay heaps of paint on it. And as you see, the White Scars logo is not terribly difficult. It's a funny shaped rectangle with a red lightning bolt through it. And I've got it pretty close to the right size. Pretty happy. And just adding a few details onto the white scar to give them a little bit of character. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this shorter video. If you enjoyed the music, please check out Gabriel's channel. If you want to see other videos I've done, have a look at my playlists. I've got a few Space Marine ones, a few unboxing videos of different board games. So there's a few things that might tickle your fancy. I do have a few more pop culture themed Space Marine videos coming up, so stay tuned for those. And until next time, I'll catch you around.